We're going to say two Kapilach of Tehillim, and then we're going to get started. Rabbi Kelman, please.
Shalom aloi sesoina yela harim yayin yova yezri. Ezri miyim adayno yoisei shamayim v'aretz. Al yitein lamoy reglecha al yonun shaymirecha. Hinei lo yonon v'lo yishon shomer Yisrael. Adonai shomerecha, Adonai tzilcha al yad yeminecha. Yomam Hashem shliacheka v'yoreach b'alayla. Adonai yishmocha mikol ra, yishmor es nafshecha. Adonai yishmor tzeischcha v'yecha me'ata v'yad olam. Kof mem beis. Maskil David v'yisai v'amaras v'ila. Kaili Adonai ezah, kaili Adonai eschanan. Eshpoich lefanav sichi, tzarasi lefanav aged. Besatei v'lai ruchi, v'ato yadatan esivasi, v'achzu aleich tamnu fachli. Habeit yomin re'ev, eni makir, v'ad manois mimeni ein deresh nafshi. Zo'akti elecha Adonai, amarti ata machzi chelki be'etz hachayim. Hakshiva eli narsi k'dei lo yisi miyoy hatzlei nimer defai ki yamtzu mimeni. Haitzia mimasker nafshi lo ydois Hashemecha v'yachtiru tzadikim ki sigma elalai. Acheinu kol beis Yisrael hamitzim asar sh'noi b'nei v'ayvash makim ha'chan hashta b'agol azman kriv v'naymar amen.
Good evening, everyone. Shos kol hakol hakodesh hazeh. Thank everyone for joining us. Will Amir Hashem be a very truly meaningful, memorable, and inspiring evening. Tonight we're not here to search for answers to a tragedy, but rather we're here to reflect on how remarkable people responded to tragedy in an extraordinary way, and how the light of one person, a precious little girl, continues to shine brighter than ever. Amunah is very easy to speak about. We hear inspiring stories, we read moving thoughts, Divrei Torah, and we say all the time, Amir Hashem, Be'ezras Hashem, Hashem will help, etc. But the Chazon Ish teaches us that true bitachon is not merely something we say with our lips. True bitachon is revealed when life is difficult, when the light feels to dim, and when the Hester Panim is very deep. Over these past few weeks, Yodi and Mrs. Herzberg, together with Binny and Mrs. Wiedemann and their families, have shown us up close and personal what true, steadfast bitachon in the practical looks like. Reb Chaim Yehuda Leib Orbach, the father of Shlomo Zalman, would repeat an extremely powerful lesson from the Noam Elimelech. And he says, before the coming of Mashiach, there will be what's called Chevlei Mashiach, which are the birth pains and difficulties that precede the Geula. But he explains, the Noam Elimelech does, that the word Chevel also means a rope. And the Noam Elimelech tells us that before Mashiach comes, today's days, Be'ikvus ad Mashiach, Hashem extends a rope to every Yid. But that rope shakes. There will be confusion, uncertainty, pain, and challenge. And holding on to that rope, which connects us directly to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that rope of Emunah is not easy. But those who continue holding on with Emunah, no matter how hard that rope may shake, will merit to see the coming of Mashiach. That rope was shaken in our community like never before. And Yodi and Mrs. Herzberg, together with Binny and Mrs. Wiedemann and their families, have shown us what it means to hold on tight, with strength, with courage, and with unwavering bitachon. But they did not hold only on for themselves. They held on tightly to that rope with such fierce determination, but they reached out and lifted hundreds of others along with them, inspiring them and leading them to hold on to that rope of Emunah, whereby they strengthen themselves, their connection to Hashem, and deepening their trust in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then there was Shalom for Charlotte. In just a few short weeks, Shalom for Charlotte campaign has inspired people around the world in a remarkable way. Until now, when kids would fight or they would squabble with each other, parents could say, "No, stop, be mevater, it's the 3 weeks, it's the 9 days, stop." Today, the echoes of Shalom for Charlotte are heard far beyond our community. In homes, in schools, in camps, in offices, and kehilas around the world. Those 3 words, Shalom for Charlotte, have become a reminder to pause, to think, to be mindful, and to bring more Shalom into this world. Shalom for Charlotte and Charlotte herself calls on us to go beyond our comfort zone, to reach out when it's hard, to extend the hand even when we feel wronged, and to keep trying even when the other person does not reciprocate. It's uncomfortable and even painful, but the Shalom we have witnessed from the Herzberg and Wiedemann families teaches us that we can forgive, we can let go of grudges, and to be the ones to reach out and repair what was broken. Even before all of this, before this event, just a few weeks ago, Charlotte was already a beacon of Shalom. She was an infectiously happy, cheerful, sweet, angelic child whose constant smile and good cheer uplifted everyone around her. You could not help but smile when you saw Charlotte, because Charlotte could only smile at you, whether she knew you or not. How did Charlotte become so synonymous with Shalom? Children we know absorb the atmosphere of a home. They learn not only from what their parents say, but mostly from who their parents are. Yuri, Mrs. Herzberg, and the entire Herzberg mishpacha are true living examples of what it means to be people that exemplify Shalom. They're very non-judgmental. They care, they see the good in others, they want to build, to connect, to help. They're balei tzedakah, and truly care and want to bring unity into a world that often so feels divided. I want to share one story, to me, that captured this, the Yuri and Mishpachas Herzberg, and the Shalom that permeates their home in a very special way. A few years ago, we had a Chassidish Rebbe come to our community for Shabbos in Pomona East. Now, for those who are not aware, Kahan Zichron Chanina Getzel, Pomona East, is an extremely Litvish shul. We do have some Nusasfar people, but for the most part, we are a Litvish shul. A tish is something which is very unique to a Litvish shul, and I would venture to say that the majority of us perhaps have never been at an actual tish. But the Rebbe came, and we hosted a Friday night tish, conducted it exactly the way a real Hasidic tish would have. There was kiddush, there was hamaitzi, there was fish schmaltz, there was fish given out, there was chicken, zmiras, the Torah well into the night. But the next morning before Shacharis, about 8:45, there was a very big issue, a big problem, conundrum. The Rebbe's shmek tabak, which is a snuff box, which is something which is extremely important in the Hasidic world, was missing. Could not find it. We searched the tables, the gabon, went on a hunt. They went back to the house where he was staying, back and forth. We searched the streets, the bookcases, the floors, people's talis bags. Could not find the shmek tabak. I decided I would go check the kitchen. And there was Yuri, sleeves rolled up, no gloves, deep in the garbage, rifling through that garbage from the previous night's tish. And let me tell you, this was not a clean garbage. This was tish garbage. There was schmaltz, there was tissues, there was dirty plates, everything you could imagine of such a garbage. But there was Yuri, searching through all of it until he finally found that treasured lost snuff box, that tabak. For a Litvish Yid, a tish and a snuff box don't necessarily stir the deepest of emotions. And when you add garbage into the picture, it's probably the last thing we want to get involved in. But Yuri showed us something powerful. Sometimes to create shalom, to help another Yid, we need to get our hands dirty. Sometimes we need to reach deep into uncomfortable places. We need to go beyond our comfort zones and connect to another person, even when it is not easy, natural, pleasant. And we're willing to do that when we're willing to push past the discomfort for the sake of another Yid, for the sake of Shalom, for the sake of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We create tremendous nachas ruach, a reach michayach for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is Shalom. This is Yuri. This is the Herzberg family. And this is one of the inspiring messages of what happened in this event. And this is what Charlotte was zeicha to see at home. I want to finish with one last story. Rabbi Yisrael Zev Guzman was an extraordinary Talmid Chacham. He was a Talmud of Rabbi Shimon Shkop and the youngest Dayan in Rabbi Chaim Oizer's Bezdin in Vilna. After surviving the war, he rebuilt his life in Eretz Yisrael and opened Yeshivas Netzach Yisrael in Chavia, which is where he lived. In 1982, there was the Lebanon War in Eretz Yisrael. many young men were drafted, reservists were called up, and so was a neighbor of the Gusman family, Shlomo Elman. And this young Shlomo had a wife and a newborn child, but he was called up to the reserves. And unfortunately, Shlomo was killed. His father, Professor Yisrael Elman, was a neighbor and extremely close friend of Rav Gusman. After attending the heartbreaking Levaya, together with his entire yeshiva, Rav Gusman did not return to yeshiva to deliver his scheduled shiur. Rather, he went directly to the Elman home, where the shiva had just begun. He said to Rabbi Elman, "Would it be okay if I sit next to you and not across from you?" Rabbi Elman said, "Of course, Rosh Yeshiva." And Rav Gusman said as follows: "You may not know this, but I had a son named Meir. And Meir was an absolute gem. He had tremendous chayim, he was beloved, he was smart, he was sweet. And the Nazis snatched him from my hands, and he was killed. I want to tell you," said Rav Gusman, "what's happening right now in the Olam HaEmes in Gan Eden. It's mincha time, like it is here as well. And my son Meir is going out to greet your son Shlomo as they prepare to daven in the minyan of the Shemayim, in the Pamaya Shemayim. And Meir motions to Shlomo and he says, 'Shlomo, come, we're about to start mincha.' And Shlomo, I want to tell you," says Meir, "I died al Kiddush Hashem. I died because I was a Yid. But you, Shlomo, you died saving and protecting Eden." Says Rav Gusman, "My son Meir, he's tremendously Kaddish. He was part of this special minyan in Shemayim. But turning to the father of this Shlomo, but your Shlomo died protecting and saving Klal Yisrael. And therefore he is the Shliach Tzibur in this special minyan of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I'm certainly the last person to know what's happening in Shemayim. But after hearing that story, I cannot help but imagine the following scene taking place. It's time for Mincha now in Shemayim. In Gan Eden, there's a minyan with the tzaddikim, the Talmidei Chachamim are privileged to daven. At the entrance to the shul, there's a sign that says men's entrance. And there's Charlotte, with that innocent smile of hers, and she looks at the sign of the men's entrance, she smiles and walks in. Holding a tehillim in her hand, she skips into the shul, she smiles as she passes Rav Hutner, she waves to Shlomo Freifeld, and then she sees her Zayda. Rav Herzberg, and excitedly runs towards him, where he welcomes her onto his lap. Looking at him, Charlotte says, "Zaidi, you accomplished so much in your life. Your beautiful family, your Talmidim, your yeshiva, a legacy for generations. But I want to let you know, Zaidi, I too will follow in your ways. And although I'm only 8 years old, you will see, Zaidi, what I can do. You will see the impact I will have. You will see how my life and the movement inspired by my life will help protect and bring tremendous nachas ruach and bracha to Yidden all over the world." And with that, she gives Zaidi Herzberg a kiss on his cheek, hops off his lap, turns to him and says, "Shalom, Zaidi." And Rav Chanina, with a bright and proud smile, looks at her and says, "Shalom, Charlotte. Shalom for Charlotte." With that, it is my honor to introduce Zaidi.
All right.
Good evening. Before I begin, I just want to begin by thanking Rabbi Rothbard, Rabbi Wiener, Rabbi Noble, and the entire Shloshim Valley for hosting us tonight, and everything they have done to make this evening a possibility. Thank you. I want to be clear why we're here tonight and why we are not. We're not here to talk about Charlotte Herzberg, the individual. And we're not here to talk about the tragic accident. If you're in this room, you already know the story. We're here to talk about the impact. We're here to talk about the actual shalom that is taking place right now all around us, and about the tremendous bracha it's bringing into our life and into Klal Yisrael. I have to tell you something. Ever since the accident, I've been living in a bubble. An amazing bubble. It's a bubble of goodness, a bubble in which every single member of Klal Yisrael is amazing. Because the stories that keep coming in, they're not about Gedalim. They're not about tzaddikim hidden away somewhere. They're about regular people. People that you may pass in the store and think to yourself, they're not my type. They're too modern. They're too frum. They're not like me. Regular people. And then you hear what these people have done. And the Gebura that comes through in these stories, it's inspiring beyond words. And you realize that no one in Klal Yisrael is regular. What happened to my wife and I, what happened to Charlotte, was in the truest sense of the word, an accident. It is obvious that the person that I love had no intention and would never have any intention of hurting my family. But in so many of the stories that are coming in, it was no accident. Someone went out of their way to hurt the other party. Someone deliberately, intentionally caused pain. And these families, the regular people, they found the strength to make shalom anyway. How? How does a person do that? How does a person forgive someone who hurt them on purpose? So I want to try to answer that tonight. I believe that when we internalize a few facts, we begin to see people from a completely different perspective. And the actions they do from a completely different perspective. Just two facts. Fact number one, that everything that happens to us, everything, down to stubbing our toe, does not happen unless Hashem is going for it to happen. Nothing slips through. Nothing is random. So it feels like someone may hurt you, it's because Hashem let it happen. He could have stopped it, but he decided not to. Fact number two, Hashem is kulei toiv, he's all good. Every single thing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does for us is for the ultimate good. And I don't mean some abstract version of the greater good, I mean your good, your personal good. It's a very challenging job to make sure that everyone is good, but the HaKadosh Baruch Hu can do it. Life is a tapestry. And to appreciate the beauty of a tapestry, you can't stare at one thread from behind. You need to see the whole picture. So with these two facts in mind, listen to what follows from them. When something happens to you, it is not people doing something to you. It's Hashem. He utilizes it in many different shluchim, many different messengers. But make no mistake, it is all Hashem. Don't shoot the messenger. Let me make this a little bit more real. Imagine someone gets fired from their job. Their boss made a decision and had HR deliver it to them. Does that person who got fired have any reason to be upset at HR? Of course not. In fact, the opposite is often true. HR may have been his friend, and the guy who got fired feels bad for HR. He says, I'm sorry, the boss put you in this position. That's what goes on with us, our relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. So I know what you're thinking, because I've thought it too. What we are discussing here tonight is so hard to see when you're in the moment. How can it be the person who stole $50,000 from me is not solely to blame? How can it be that the person who crashed into me with his car is not at fault? They're the ones who did it. The answer is, Hashem wanted $50,000 to be taken from you. Hashem wanted you to be in that car crash. Why? I have no idea. But you know who does? Hashem. And it's all part of a really beautiful tapestry. One that one day we may be privy to understand, maybe not. And why did Hashem choose this shliach? That we're going to get back to at the end. And this brings me to something I need everyone in this room to hear, loud and clear. Because I think we've been getting it wrong our whole lives. Making shalom is not about right or wrong. It's not about agreeing. Making shalom is about It's about realizing that it wasn't the shliach who was responsible. It's Hashem. And Hashem loves us much more than we could ever imagine. You can still think you were right. You probably were. Shalom doesn't ask you to rewrite history. It asks you one question. Do you believe that Hashem is kulei toiv and that He runs every aspect of our lives? It's not by coincidence that Shalom not only means peace, it's also the one that names of Hashem. Shalom. In every aspect of our lives, then we are B'Shalom. We are living with the realization that every little thing has Hashem's involvement. Let me tell you how this looks in real life. These aren't theories. These are phone calls that I'm receiving every single day. 2 days ago, I received a call from a Rabbi in camp on Shivas B'Tamas. He spoke to 200 boys. He spoke about Shalom, about Achdus, about the destruction that Machlekes brings. And he ended his speech by telling the story of Charlotte Herzberg and the Shalom for Charlotte initiative. 3 days later, was visiting day. And he notices a couple looking over at him, a couple he doesn't recognize. Their son isn't in his learning group, and he has no idea what they want. They come over and say, Rebbe, we want to tell you a story about our 13-year-old son. He was at your speech. The very next day, Friday, he calls us. He says, Daddy, I want to tell you about a speech I just heard. And he repeats the whole thing, the whole story of Shalom for Charlotte. And then he says, Daddy, I know that you're in a machlekes with so-and-so. It would mean a tremendous amount to me if you were willing to make Shalom for Charlotte. So the father says to him, that's very nice of you. But you have to understand, this guy owes me $35,000. Let me discuss it with Mommy, and I'll get back to you. So he speaks with his wife, they talk it over, and they decide, we're going to make Shalom for Charlotte. We're going to be Michael, the $35,000 and the person. A 13-year-old boy, so impacted by the story, he had the courage to ask his own parents, and do his parents even realize what they gave their child? For the rest of that boy's life, he's going to think twice, maybe even 3 times, before ever getting into machlekes. Because how could he? His parents gave up one because he asked, and it cost him $35,000. That chinuch is invaluable. There's no school, no sefer, no speech that could ever teach that boy what his parents just taught him. That's living b'shalom. Let me tell you one more. Last week, a man came over to me. His business partner stole $3 million from him. $3 million. And he says it's been weighing him down for years. Every time he hears his partner's name, he wants to scream from the rooftops. He's a ganef. Every time he sees him getting honored, every time he sees him making a siyum, he says to him, I wish the world would know what type of ganef my partner is. For years, that's what he's been carrying. And he comes over to me last week and he says, I was mindful of him. I did it for Charlotte. And then he tells me that the following Shabbos, he was at a Kiddush, and his partner's name came up in a conversation, and for the first time in years, he had no cheshik to say anything negative about him. You hear that? Not he held himself back, not that he bit his tongue. He had no desire to say anything negative anymore. The Mechila didn't just change what he did, it changed what he actually wanted. It healed something inside of him. The gevura and the strength of this person is unbelievable. That's living b'shalom. And I want you to know these are 2 stories. 2. Even if the Shalom for Charlotte initiative ended today, look at the changes that have already come up from it. People talking to their children again, grandparents meeting the grandchildren for the very first time, neighbors who haven't spoken in years, people carrying tainas for decades, people carrying hurt for years, finally putting it down, putting it aside. These are all real cases that happen. These are just some of the thousands and thousands of stories that are happening right now as we speak, because of a delicious, beautiful 8-year-old girl named Charlotte. Now I want to zoom out for a moment, because I believe something much bigger is happening here with our tragedy. Sometimes Hashem chooses shluchim because they need a punishment. Sometimes He chooses them because they earn the right to receive a kapara. But sometimes the mission is so crucial and the message that has to come to the world is so important that Hashem sends His best shluchim. Because He needs the message heard so badly, they can't risk getting it messed up. Thank you. The Satan thought he could show Hashem that we, Klal Yisrael, could not withstand the test of Machlekes. He's been building his case for a very, very long time. What the Satan didn't realize is that Hashem is 100 steps ahead of him. Hashem showed the Satan, not only will you fail, you're going to be a willful participant in the tremendous Kiddush Hashem, one that will shake the entire world. You, Yetzer Hara, will be complicit in bringing Shalom to the world. You know, it's common practice that when a president from the other party comes into office, he spends his first couple of days undoing hundreds of policies. Policies that people spend years and years lobbying and pushing through. And then with the stroke of the pen, the policy is dead. Just like that. That's exactly what happened over here. The Satan spent days, months, years, decades in building machlekes, brick by brick, grudge by grudge. And just like that, Hashem tricked him. He played him for a fool. He made him the catalyst for Shalom. And machlekesim are coming crumbling down with the stroke of a pen. So here's what I want to leave you with. The tremendous gift that we could give Charlotte, the gift we could give ourselves, the gift we could give our children is living b'shalom. You don't even realize what that grudge or machlekes is doing to you. It's weighing you down. Every day, you've gotten so used to carrying it that you've forgotten what it feels like to stand up straight. I've received so many calls, people telling me how much better they feel after being Michael. Everyone says a version of the same thing. It's a weight being lifted off my shoulders. So here's my ask. It's very simple. If you're inspired tonight to make Shalom for Charlotte, then do it. Don't wait for a better moment. There isn't one. And if for whatever reason Charlotte's not inspiring you enough, then do it for yourself. You owe it to yourself. And one more thing. I told you at the beginning of tonight that I've been living in a bubble of goodness. I want to invite you all in, every single one of you, because the bubble is beautiful. It's a world of Yidden being good, Yidden trying their best. It's a bubble where we recognize that humans err, that people may do things that bother us, things that may even hurt us, but it's not who they are. Hashem allowed all of these actions to happen to us, every single one of them. And the people, they're shluchim, Yidden trying their best just like you and me. That's the bubble. And I'll tell you a secret about it. It's not really a bubble at all. It's just what Klal Yisrael looks like when we stop keeping score. And there's room in there for everyone. So come join me. I told you at the beginning of the night that sometimes Hashem sends His best shluchim when He needs a message heard so badly that He can't risk it getting messed up. He doesn't choose someone who needs a punishment. He chooses someone precious to Him. And that's what happened here. Hashem needed the message of Shalom brought into this world. It's only because it had to be Binny. It simply had to be. So He chose Binny. Binny, the person that I love, who I told you about at the beginning, who had no intention and would never have any intention of hurting my family. Hashem chose him to be involved in the most important mission of our generation. And I don't want you to hear about him from me. I want you to hear about it from Binny. So Binny, please come on up. Thank you all very much.
Truth, I want to apologize. Truly, I want to apologize because when you looked at the roster and you saw who was speaking, I wasn't on there. But the truth is, I always had a hard time saying no to Yuri. And he pushes me a lot. But as you can imagine, now more than ever, I can never say no to him. And when Yuri asked me to get up and say a few words, there's nothing I wouldn't do for him. B'shas Avimayri, B'shas Harav, B'shas Kol Kodesh Hazeh. Truthfully, a lot of times we go through something in life, what we like to call it's a life-changing moment. And we can even put a pin in there. We can remember the before, this is who I was before, and then you can remember this is who I was afterwards. For me, I experienced one of those moments. It was on June 2nd. It was Yud Zayin Sivan, and the exact time was at 5:34 p.m. And I'd like to just walk you through my journey of the last couple of weeks, what's been going through, and hopefully together we could get an inspiration from it. I remember right after that, for the next couple of days, I was thinking why. I couldn't understand why. There were many questions I had. But one of the big whys was why me? For the last 7+ years, I've dedicated thousands, I would say thousands of hours helping people on Hatzalah, literally being what you would say was the polar opposite, literally saving people. And it just didn't make sense to me. I was the shliach of Hashem to save people, to help people, devoted hours of my time. And now this, I was a shliach for this, I couldn't understand it. And to make it even worse, to a family that I like to call Yuri, my Rabbi in Chesed, in the Herzberg family, Yuri and his wife, they don't just do Chesed, they literally live Chesed. Everything that they do in their life is always for Yenim. Whether it's building a house, whether it's being involved in a shul, there's so much that day to day is always Chesed. It's always thinking about other people. And it didn't make any sense to me. This was going through my mind. Why? Why me? And then I realized I made a big mistake. It was around 3 years ago. I've been learning with Yuri close to 7 years now, every morning. And about 3 years ago, I come one morning, I tell Yuri, we have to add to our Seder. We learn every morning, we learn Gemara, we're doing a Raisa. I told him we have to add a little. I said, we have to start learning B'tachan. I said, it's one of the fundamentals, it's a foundation of Yiddishkeit. I feel we should start learning it. And we started learning it. We went through Shar B'tachan, we went through our Parasef on B'tachan. And I remember thinking, and we even spoke about it, I'm like, yeah, I got it. Makes sense. And in the moment I thought that when something happens to you, and you're in the darkness, and you have these questions, why? And you're in this astara, if you have B'tachan, it will be clear to you. You'll have the answers. I thought B'tachan will literally give you the answers. So it made sense. You'll have questions. If you have B'tachan, you'll have the answers. But then I realized I was totally wrong. That's not what B'tachan is. True B'tachan is in the why. True B'tachan is not knowing the answers. True B'tachan is realizing that even in the astara, even in the darkness, which we can't fathom what the reason for it is, to realize that this is what Hashem wanted, but more than that, to bring us back to that moment before Neshama came down. David literally showed us a blueprint of our life. We saw every detail, everything that's going to happen. And then we turned the page over, and we saw all the reasonings for it. We saw all the answers for it. And it was so clear to us. We didn't just accept it, we wanted it. Because this is what we needed. This is what our neshama needed. This is the ticket for whatever, this is what we needed. And we signed on the bottom because this is what we wanted. So that's what B'tachan is, I realized. It's not that it's going to be clear to us, but that we're going to realize, the word of B'tachan is to realize that this is ultimately what we wanted, and this is ultimately what we accepted because we knew it was for the good. Fine, then I came to the next thing. I was like, so what now? Do you just go back to regular life? And the answer is, sometimes yes. David just sends you an assignment, you work in it, and you could go back. But as I've been finding over the last couple of weeks, David has been sending me messages both ways. Sometimes he eats a heart in the Satan, he comes at you hard, he gets in your head, He even sends Shloshim at you to tell you things. But then you find right away a balance, how the Eibush sends you messages from the Yetzer Tov. And it was 2 days later, it was Parsha Shlach, that I saw a beautiful vart that resonated with me. And the vart goes, we all know the story. We all know the story of the Meraglim. The Meraglim, I would guess to say, probably made one of the biggest Chilul Hashems. True, there's no social media those days, so I'm not sure how they got the word out, but definitely in that time, was one of the biggest Chilul Hashems. They came out of Eretz Yisrael, and they literally bashed the land. They came out of Eretz Yisrael, and they were saying, the Eibush can't handle us. He can't take down these kings over here, right? And the Eibush turned to Moshe Rabbeinu. If you go through the Psukim, I'm not going to read them all off to you, but if you go through it right before Rabbi, the Eibush turned to Moshe Rabbeinu, and he says, that's it. I'm wiping out Klal Yisrael. These are not the people. These are not the people that I saved, took them out of Mitzrayim, took them through Kriyas Yamsuf. And Moshe Rabbeinu turned to the Eibush and he says he has two things. First thing he does, he davens. He says Yugam Umidas. He starts saying Hashem, Hashem, Kam Ali Racham, and he goes to the Yugam Umidas. The second thing, he turned to the Eibush and he comes up with a whole taina. He told the Eibush, look, it's not going to look good for you. You just took the Yidden out of Mitzrayim. Unbelievable. You went up against one king, right? Parrot. Took them out of Mitzrayim. Kriyas Yamsuf. Unbelievable. Now you're about to go into Eretz Yisrael. At that time, Rashi says, there were 31 kings in Eretz Yisrael. You know what's going to happen if you wipe out Klal Yisrael right now? People are going to say, oh, you couldn't do it. You couldn't handle it. 31 kings, you weren't able to do it. So what do? So you wipe them out. You know what a Chilul Hashem that's going to be? That's what Moshe Rabbeinu told the Eibush. If you look at the next passage, the Bible says, "V'yema Hashem salachti kidvarecha." Taka, I'm going to give you. I'm going to be meichel them salachti. But what do you say, kidvarecha? Like your words. Now the problem is, he said two things over here. First thing he did was Hashem Hashem, and the second thing he said was this whole taina that it's going to be a Chilul Hashem. So if you look at Rashi over there, it's unbelievable. Rashi says it was the second thing. David just says, for the Chilul Hashem, you're 100% right. I'm not going to destroy them. But then there's the unbelievable pasuk right after that, comes out of nowhere. The pasuk says, V'ulam, however, chayani. Rashi says, a lashon shvur, you have to swear to me, B'yimalei kvoid Hashem as kol haaretz. You're going to fill up, you're going to make a kiddush Hashem, you're going to malei as kvoid Hashem a kol haaretz, all over the land. And it says in Tziv, where does this come in exactly? He says such a beautiful shot. He said, the Eibush says, you're right. I'm going to save Klal Yisrael right now. You know why? Because it's going to be a Chilul Hashem. But you know what your mission is? You know what your mission as Klal Yisrael is forever and ever? Yimalei Hashem as kol haaretz kvoidai. You have to go out there wherever you are, no matter where you are in the world, no matter what situation you are, you have a chiyuv, a Shloshim shvur, Yimalei kvoid Hashem as kol haaretz. And then I was thinking, there's one time that the Eibush says, erase my name. It's kedai for me to go ahead and erase the name. And where is that? That's by a Saita. You know, by a Saita, the husband accuses the wife of doing different things. And they end up kind of machlekas. And the Eibush says, I can't handle this. It's kedai for me, for you to go ahead and erase my name in order to bring Shalom. And if you think about it, even think, a Seita is not the greatest person out there. I mean, if you go through the Suga, she had Kino, she had Stiro, but yet David, she said, these are one of my children. It doesn't make a difference where they are, where they're up to right now. It's kedai for me to go ahead and erase my name. So I was thinking, comes out that every time you're involved in machlekes, or you have a grudge against someone, the Eibush is right there. And the Eibush is saying, it's kedai for me to go ahead and erase my name. The Eibush is coming to you, and he said, listen, if it's going to make Shalom right now, go ahead and erase my name. So now the second thing that came to me was how. It's hard. You know, at the end of the day, you feel like people did something to you. People hurt you. They're deliberately going out and talking against you, stealing from you, taking things from you. It's really hard. And the truth is, I'm sure everyone could come up with their own things, their own answers, but I'll give you two ideas that I thought about that worked for me. The first thing is, like I just said, try to take it out of Ben Adam Machaveira. Take it out, look at it more like a Ben Adam Lamakan, between you and Hashem. If you look at it like that, you look at it, every machlekes, forget about the other person. You look at it, the Eibush is coming here. And he says, listen, I'm willing to erase my name for this. Wouldn't you do it for the Eibush? Wouldn't you say, keep your name? Don't erase it? I believe if you do that, there's such an ace ruts in there at the moment. You can literally tell the Eibush, I love you, I'm doing this for you. However, help me out with this. That was the first thing that came to my mind. The second thing, which I actually wrote down, and something I try to say every day, for the last 30 days, something I try to say, and for right now, you can just say it, but eventually it'll become a part of you, and I believe it'll change your day. And that is 2 lines that I took out from a beautiful letter that Binyamin wrote. And he writes, because the truth is, nobody does anything to you. Hashem is doing it all. Every moment, every encounter, every painful, confusing, heartbreaking chapter of our lives is written by His hands. I think if you wake up in the morning and you just say it, as much as you hear people say, I'm going to ruin this guy's life, I'm going to go after him, no one can really do it. It looks like, and maybe it looks like, and that guy will have to give a din cheshbon why he was the shliach. But you were never supposed to get that house. They wish it could have took a tree and smashed it down. It was never supposed to get it. You're never supposed to get it. Why he was the shliach? That's not your problem. And if you really internalize that, and if you really realize that nothing, absolutely nothing could happen without the Eibishter, it makes it so much easier to just let it go. I'd just like to end off, if you could really do that, just make a tiny move. People think Shalom is, I can never be friends with that person. It could be you're right. You don't have to be friends. Sometimes it could just be saying you Shabbos and Shul to this person. Sometimes it can be when you come to a simcha, you're just able to sit across them. Shalom is not all or nothing. I think if we take that tiny step, when Amit Hashem, we greet Mashiach, which He's coming. As I heard from the Yeshiva of Eisenberger, He's here. He's amongst us already. We just need to reel Him in. Instead of just going over to Mashiach when He comes and we give Him a Shalom Aleichem, and He gives us Aleichem Shalom back, we'll give Him a Shalom Aleichem, He'll take our hand. I believe He'll squeeze it, He'll look us in the eye, and He'll say, thanks for bringing me.
Often we think that a great person, great stories, and great incidences and great events, and people are built through great actions. But sometimes the most special inspiration happens in the most unassuming ways. Yuri got up, I believe it was a Tuesday from Shiva, and as we all know, Yuri and Binny are the stalwarts of our morning kollel. Sometimes it's smaller, sometimes it's bigger. But every morning, whether it's sunny, whether it's raining in the tent, whether it's snowing in the tent, whether the tent is clean or it's dirty, you'll find in the corner Binny and Yuri learning every morning. As we know, during Shiva, one may not learn, and the Chavrusa Shaft stopped. But one would have thought that after this whole story, Yuri needs a break, Binny needs a break. How could we get up again? And that Wednesday morning, I walked into shul, 6:50, 6:55, and I looked in the corner, assuming that corner would be empty. Binny wouldn't be there, Yuri wouldn't be there, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu would not have one taina on them. No one would have a taina. But there they were, as if a day hadn't passed of their learning. Learning together, talking together, as if they were always together. And I think some of these moments in life happen in the corner of a tent, and it's something that we can gain tremendous inspiration from. 5 years ago, we had discussed in the Pomonius community to have an official hachtara of our Rav and Rebbitzin of Heshy Kahan. And I said over the story, a brief story that I'd like to repeat again. B'Yisrael Shlomo Kahanim in the Panovich Rav was an Eloi, and at a very young age, he lived in the town of Kula, in Poland, and he had wanted very much to go to Telz. Telz was the Ema Yeshivas at that point in time. The problem was Telz had a policy. There were so many Bachrim that wanted to join the yeshiva, they made a rule that only one Bachar per town was able to come. What should he do? There was already a Bachar from Kula who attended Telz, and the Panovich Rav was not able to get into the yeshiva. But he was very precocious, he was undeterred, and he decided that for a few weeks he would move to another small hamlet near the German border. We had family, assuming and knowing that from there was no Bachar, and therefore he would be able to gain entry to Telz. He arrived from this small little town, and he met the Rosh Hashiva, Rabbi Eisenberger. And Rabbi Eisenberger looked at his papers and gave him faher, and he did amazing. But then he asked him the big question, which town are you from? And he gave the name of this very small town. And Bloch said, okay, I know this town, we don't have any Bachram from there. But he said, who's the Rav? I don't recognize this town. Who is the Rav of this town? And Rabbi Yosef Shlomo responded, this town does not have a Rav. Rabbi Bloch responded, a town without a Rav, a city without a Rav is not a town. And therefore I cannot accept you to the yeshiva. How true those words are. A kihila without a Rav is missing its center, its epicenter, its direction, and its heart. When Heshy became a Rav and the Rebbitzin became our Rebbitzin, our neighborhood, Pomona East, was crowned with that identity. We were no longer just a dot on the map, we became a true kihila, a place with direction, with purpose, and heart. Over the past years, and especially over these last few weeks, Rav Heshy and the Rebbitzin have helped this kihila, our kihila, shine brightly on the map of Yiddishkeit. Guiding, supporting, encouraging, there 24/7, uplifting and carrying us in the good times and the difficult times and the moments when a community needs strength, direction, and heart. And for that, Rav Heshy and the Rebbitzin, each and every one of us in our shul, our wives, our spouses, our children, our families, want to thank you. We appreciate you, and we're very much excited to hear Rav Heshy say a few words of Divrei Chesed.
When the tragedy happened in Meron, and they were, at the moment, you got word in, there's a young American student, Donnie Morris. They kept on sending pictures to all the members of Hatzalah to look for this boy, this bacher. And the father kept on calling the head of Hatzalah continuously. Do you see him? Do you see him? Do you see him? Until they heard the tragic news that he was found, but he was no longer alive. And his mother said, the pain is unbearable. The one thing that has helped me cope is the fact that there are so many people here carrying the burden with me. There were two members of the underground that had to go into hiding during the Holocaust. And they were hidden in the back of a barn. And the only way to maintain their secrecy, they could not get up for almost 2 years. They were hunched in a little ditch. And it took many, many, many months to rehabilitate themselves to be able to walk normally afterwards. But they had a transistor radio. And they heard a member of the British Parliament announce on the radio that we know in Germany there are people that are hiding in ditches, that are stuck in secrecy, fearing for their lives. We know about you. We care about you. And we're going to come and get you. And they said it was those words that kept us alive. To have such a chevra come together on a Thursday night, busy time, to come join us, to mechazek us, is really incredible. And I want each and every one of you to give yourselves a round of applause for coming here and be mechazek all of us. Okay, you can clap later. We always ask the same question when somebody dies. We ask the same question. So how old is he? Oh, 72. Oh, 83. Oh, he's 96. We'd like to make sense. Because that makes sense. 96-year-olds can die. When we hear something at Sarah, it's in the 50s and the 40s, the 30s, we always ask another question. So were they sick? Cancer. Oh. Sick for a while. Oh. No, so that can make sense. When something happens that is so entirely nonsensical, that is beyond any comprehension for anybody, and we're left with questions. Until we hear a father at the levaya of his own daughter make a statement that's heard around the world, that we're going to take this, we're going to hold this, we're going to embrace this, and we're going to move forward for Shalom. That's something incredible. So we're talking about Shalom. Pretty new topic, huh? No one's ever discussed this one before. We have to understand this has been going on since the beginning of time. When Adam looked down at Chava, when Kahan looked down at Hevel, when the Shvatim looked down at Yosef, v'chulu, v'chulu. When we look down at that guy next to us, we can't stop talking. Or worse, we're the guy talking, we look down at the guy next to us who's shushking us. Look down at the guy that can't pay the building fund. Look down at the guy who hasn't paid us back. Look down at the guy that hasn't lent us his snowblower. Look down at the person that doesn't let us use their pool. Machlekes has been going on since the beginning of time. So how do we stop the bleeding? This is a Maisa. In Shabbos, a well-known story. There was a person who worked for his employer for 3 years. And he came before he came to be paid. And he asked for payment. And he said, no, 3 years, can you pay up? He says, I'm sorry, I don't have the money. But he saw that he did. Can you give me some real estate? I'm sorry, I can't do that. I don't have. But he saw that he did. Can you give me maybe some livestock, some animals? Sorry, I can't do that either. I don't have any. But he saw that he did. Maybe fruits, vegetables. Sorry, I don't have. Can you give me blankets? Can you give me pillows? Anything. I worked for you for 3 years. Sorry, I don't have. But he saw that he did. So he goes home. And after Sukkot, his employer comes with donkeys laden with food and drink. We all know the story. And he goes over to him and he says, here's all your money. And he says, when I told you I didn't have money, what did you think? He said, I thought Shema. So the Shloshim is, Shema was some pragmatia, Bazula, that's a business deal going on. When I told you I didn't have any land to give you, what do you think? I thought that it was leased out. It was there for security, for some other business you were doing. When I told you I didn't have animals, what do you think? I thought that they were intertwined in another deal, you couldn't give them. When I told you you didn't have fruits and vegetables, what do you think? You didn't take up Shumas and Maasros. I told you you didn't have blankets or pillows, what do you think? I thought that you makdish everything. It wasn't yours. And the employer looks at him and he says, that is exactly what happened. And this was Rabbi Akiva. This was Rabbi Akiva who kept on using the words Shema. 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 Maybe this, maybe that. Understanding what it means, Havidan is Kol Adam Lekav Schos. What does that mean? As Kol Ha'adam. Look at the entire person. His biological makeup. his socioeconomic makeup, his temperament, his upbringing. How many times have we seen things and completely misunderstood? There's Rabbi Rivlin, when he was Nifter, Rabbi Levine, the big tzaddik, was there. And they were sitting up with the Mayetzes, and in the middle of Levaya, at the peak of all the Hespedim, Rav Kook gets up, he goes across the street to a flower store, buys a big vase, comes out, looks at his watch, and calls a cab and takes off. Rabbi Levine, tzaddik in our time, couldn't make up. What's going on? And he was rather upset, and he goes to Rav Kook after his anniversary. Couldn't wait. You bring your wife flowers a little later. And to buy before Shabbos? It's a better price? And he says, there was a patient I used to visit in the hospital that was suffering from an incredibly contagious disease. I couldn't even go into his room. I used to go by the door and I would sing to him. And sadly, I just found out that morning it passed away. And the secular doctors told me that we must burn every single one of their items, including his tefillin. And I begged him, please don't burn his tefillin. So that's what we do, hospital policy. What do you do with tefillin? You bury them. I asked the doctor, if I give you something, some dirt to bury it, would you do that instead of running? He says, yep, you got an hour to do so. And I saw the time, I ran to get a flower vase, the pot and dirt, and went straight to the hospital to save this man's tefillin. How many times do we see something that if we're there just a little longer, we would see kol ha'adam. We would see just a little bit more. When I have my blinker on and I'm about to take that spot, and the guy sees me, and he pulls in, the chazan, and I drive off in a huff. If I'd wait another 10 seconds, I'd see him take his elderly grandmother out, who's having difficulty breathing, to the emergency room that's right where I was about to park. When I say good Shabbos to the fellow in shul, and he ignores me, and he's cold, and I walk away in a huff. If I'd wait around a little longer, I'd see the hearing aid he has in his ear. He's partially deaf. One of my favorite stories that happened to me, nowadays everything's via text and WhatsApp. Do you know how many misunderstandings there are from a text? Someone forgets to put a comma, how it gets misconstrued. Oh, so this is what he told me. He didn't tell you anything, he typed it. We were in the country, it's in the summer. I learned with Kasanim. So usually, every day I learned with one or two, and then when we were in the country, I would come in. I would drive in, and for like a day and a half, I would just do one after another, and then I would drive back. So everybody was lined up. Like the 12th that's left over, if it was too many, one after another. So everything had to be exact. And there was one fellow, and his Rosh Hashiva called me, he said, you need to learn with him, it's a difficult case, whatever the case is, please. He said, just if you it's not going to be easy, whatever it was, fine, no problem. And it was a complicated situation. But I was learning with him. And he was the first one. When I was coming in that one day a week, and I was going to stay over the night, it was going to be in the afternoon. It was at 3, so I left at 1, and I hit traffic. And I have to start, roll dominoes, or I have to pick our chain. You're going to see you at 3, I'm going to see you at 4, I'm going to see you at 4, I'm going to see you at 5, I'm going to see you at 6, etc. So I texted him, I said, I know we were supposed to meet at 3, but I'm not going to be there. I said, figured, I just did something, just by traffic, maybe 3:30, maybe 4. I said, I know, I apologize, I know, because I usually just everywhere, just said, I'll meet you 3 o'clock, meet you 4 o'clock. Text me back, 3 o'clock, rush. I was so put off. I know I told you 3 o'clock, I understand. I'm stuck in traffic. I can't rush. I'm doing you the favor. And I was coughing. And I get there, and he's there, he's waiting for me. We sit down to learn. And looks at me, he's smiling. I am so not smiling at him. He says, "No, did you tune in?" I said, "Tune in what?" He said, "Rush Limbaugh at 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock Rush, I told you. You got to just listen in." And everything got switched over. You have to realize there's an entire situation. You have to realize there are parts we just don't see. When you're on the train and the kids are unruly, and you see the parents sitting there completely oblivious, how dare you? Tend to your children. But I didn't see he just came from the hospital, where his wife, who was terminally ill, just told him goodbye. How dare my brother-in-law come and try to squeeze more of the Yerusha out of us? What I don't know, how he's choking and dead. And we have to realize there are so many different nuances that we're not aware of, and it's this week's parsha. V'hisim nekim. You know what that pasuk means? You should be clean. How? What? Where? You see, nekim is telling us. It's a Mishnah in Shalom. When you go in to the treasury, and you're in charge of giving out tzedakah, make sure you don't go in with pockets. You know why? Because if you go in with pockets, people are going to think you're starting to put some. You're starting to siphon off a little bit. V'hisim nekim. The entire concept of Marasayim. If you're selling at Smashburger a hamburger with pie cheese, you better make sure you let people know. Because we don't want people thinking otherwise. When you hang up your clothing on Shabbos, don't hang them on the line. We don't want people thinking that you loaned it on Shabbos. V'hisim nekim. Make sure you're above reproach. Why is it my issue of what you're going to think? Why don't I have to take into cheshbon your perspective? You know why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling us the perspective of every Yid is different. It's on us to understand that and to broaden ourselves and to extend ourselves and to realize the same way that I saw something is not the same way someone else is going to look at it. So here we are, coming together to understand what it means to forgive. You know the Sdei Chemed, a well-known Maisa. He had encyclopedic knowledge. How did he get there? He himself doesn't know, but he remembers that in yeshiva. He was a top student, and there was a boy that was jealous. So jealous that that boy hired an Arab woman to come to the yeshiva and make it sound that the Sdei Chemed didn't have Erev. You can imagine how the rumors were spread. You can imagine what people were saying. And Taka's reputation took a hit. And then something happened to this Arab woman. She came down with some illness and she went to her, I don't know what you call it, Muslim, imam, whatever it is. So did you do something really bad to somebody? She told him the story. So you need to go make up. And she went back to the Sdei Chemed. And she said the story was a hoax. I was hired to spread these rumors. And they told the Sdei Chemed, so no, go get your reputation back. You were the talk of the town. He said, put another year down. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to take part in it. Until the end of his days, he stood with that stain on his reputation. But he said, since that moment, his mind opened up. He was not able to forget his learning. Because you know what happens when you forgive? You know what happens when you say, I'm going to let it go? You know what happens when you say, I'm not going to continue this fight? The siyata d'shmaya you see, the bracha that comes your way, the mazel that you can experience is like nothing that you can believe. Klal Yisrael is amazing. Just the other week, my friend's son became a chassid. You have to understand something about this friend. This friend, when I was sitting Shiva 2 years ago, he's a principal in Los Angeles, lives in Los Angeles. He flew in, he was Menachem Abel, and he sat for a half hour, and he flew back to LA. I remember telling him, I was like, Aaron, I said, you realize now I have to come to every single one of your symptoms for the rest of your life, after you just did that. He's like, yeah, I know. So our luck, his son is engaged to a girl from Portland, Oregon. So Baruch Hashem, they made the Vart in Lakewood. But that's 2 hours away. So we get in the car. Now, I don't know who has a leased car or doesn't, but for those of you that have an older, more yeshivish car, when something goes on the dashboard, you look at it like it's kind of a suggestion. You don't take it so seriously. The check engine is serious. That's a serious one. But the other ones, so for a while I had like an exclamation point with a little thing about him. I think it's something to do with the tire. I wasn't quite sure. I figured I can manage to, it's been down for a while. So we get in the car and we're driving. And suddenly that exclamation point turns into an exclamation point, and we hear a pop. And the tire completely is shredded. Now, I'm in between two lanes here. I don't know what, you start panicking a little bit. I just come off. Now, I don't even know what you're not looking at. Let me see the exit. You just go. And I go, and now there's on the way to another highway, but we're stuck. Stop. And there's cars going both ways, and we're just stuck in the middle. So first I took a video just to send to my friend to say, I really, really, really was on my way, but and I'm stuck. And I call Chaver Muncie. And they don't say, we don't really know where you are. Can you give us coordinates? I'm like, I have no idea where I am. And they start figuring, and they start judging. What? It sounds like from some streets. I looked on Waze where it was. He said, what? Call Chaver Linden. It might be in Linden. Call Chaver Linden. We don't really know where you are. We're not quite sure. He said, what? Call Chaverim of Union City. We call them. And somehow he's able to, somehow through Waze, tell me, know exactly where we are. We have 3 organizations in the middle of the night, concerned about one guy and his wife who forgot to change his tire in the right time. This is Klal Yisrael. Do you understand who we are? When you move into a neighborhood in Yerushalayim, you get a book this big of the amount of gemachs that you have, that you can use. We have organizations where someone will give someone else their kidney. Understand how great Klal Yisrael is. Understand how amazing Klal Yisrael is. If you can always look at that, we can realize there's a lot of people we just don't see. I always had this question as a kid. When Yisrael comes, and he has a spectacular idea. You know something, Moshe? I don't think this is working so well. You're giving everyone attention. I think what we should do is, we should have a hierarchy, right? You'll deal with the big cases, and everyone else will deal with the small case. Now, it always bothered me, Yisrael, that's spectacular. His first name is Moshe, his last name is Rabbi. I think you could have figured that one out. I don't know, maybe it's bothering me. Whatever. I'm saying, our government thought of the same idea. The Supreme Court, lower courts. Did he need Yisrael? And I think what was different was, what Moshe Rabbeinu was? Moshe Rabbeinu saw that how great each yid is. And when you come with a small claims court of $20, and you come with a case of $3 million, to me, it's all the same. Each yid is amazing. And it says that Moshe Rabbeinu, Anam Kol Adam. So the translation is he was the greatest Anam. But maybe what made him so great is Mikol Ha'adam. He was able to see how vast, how big, and how great each yid is. So our request to everyone here is to become a yid that lives like Rabbi Akiva. Shema. Al Pi Kabbalah they say Rabbi Akiva, and Moshe had the same neshama. To see the entire person. And when something happens that I just don't get, he stole from me. He was rude to me. He stiffed me. He hurt me. There are families, I'm sure, sitting here today that have other family members they have not spoken to, not in months, but in years. And my request to everyone here is not to wait till Yom Kippur. Don't wait till after Shabbos. Now, tonight, to accept upon yourself to make that phone call, to ask for forgiveness or to forgive, and to say there's a part of you I just don't know. Shema. Shema. To look around here, to feel that from our neighborhood, that if Yudi and Bini can come together, and we can all come together, maybe all of Klal Yisrael can come together. And when you make that phone call, and you feel that weight lift off your shoulder, and you start to feel just a little bit better, and you smile, know that there is a neshama of an 8-year-old girl whose smile lit up an entire neighborhood, who is down there looking down at all of us and is smiling along with us. If we can do that, just one act of shalom at a time, one act of forgiveness at a time, then 2 weeks from tonight, instead of following the same law we followed for 2,000 years, of not being allowed to greet a fellow Yid, but on the contrary, we will embrace and wish each other a good Yontif. With Hashem, we should be Zaycha, that we see Tisha B'Av to become that Yontif, as we all come together to greet Mashiach Tzidkenu, B'mheira B'meinu, B'nai.
Before we have our next speaker come on up, I just want to give a small introduction. You know, when over the last couple of weeks, people ask me, so how did what's your shaykhus to Rabbi Eisenberger? I said, I didn't have a shaykhus. I just got it. Like, what does that mean? I said, you're never going to believe this. The driver of the car has shaykhus to Rabbi Eisenberger, and that's how we got shaykhus to Rabbi Eisenberger. And in that context, it's important to understand that for my wife and I, that was just a small, one of the many small signs from HaKadosh Baruch Hu that this is a godly act, and this whole tsar is a godly tsar. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is involved in every single component, because it's one of the turning points of the game for us in dealing with this whole tragedy is when we met Rabbi Eisenberger on Wednesday night, and he gave us his clarity and gave us perspective of how to process the tragedy, how to process the circumstances of the tragedy. So we're honored that Rabbi Eisenberger is joining us. We're honored that he's going to give us some hanas with a few words, and really just I just want to take this opportunity for my wife and I to thank Rabbi Eisenberger for the chizuk he's been giving us, and hopefully he'll continue to give us, as we continue together. I think Rabbi Eisenberger said that he's a shutef with me and Bini on this mission. So, we're going to continue doing this together. I want to please call Rabbi Eisenberger to be ma'anas.
Schuss Kola Kodesh Hazeh. It's a gewaltige schus to stand here. There is a concept in Chazal HaKdoshim, Bosi Lelamed, I've come to teach, to educate, but Lemaisa, V'nimtzeisi Lomed, at the end I'm learning. I came to Monsey, Pomona, I'm not sure the exact location, that night, to offer something, to say something, to pass on a message. And Lemaisa, I came back home, back to Brooklyn, with a lot more than what I came to offer. I witnessed something I've never seen. I never would have believed that it's something one can't see with his own two eyes, Einei Bosor, in this life, in this world. And again tonight I'm sitting here listening to the beautiful words of the Rav Shlita, Rabbi Heshy, Rabbi, Rabbini, and the MC. It's a gewaltige Kiddush Hashem. This Maimed is a Maimed Kiddush Hashem. And this beautiful, beautiful Charlotte Shendel. I've never been in Gan Eden. I mean, I may have been, but I don't know of my being in Gan Eden. I've never been in Alma de Kshoid, in the world of truth. But if imagination means anything, I mean, that smile that we see on the picture walking in is a smile of Olam Haza, an excitement, a happiness, a lebedikait, a chiyus. But the smile that's looking down from Gan Eden, from Asifta de Rekia, B'dimois HaKdoisho, Yisor Rivka Rochaleya, is a much deeper smile. It's a smile of maturity, of understanding, of saying, yes, this is what it's about. Of saying to Yuri and Chumi, Tati and Mami, I'm so proud of you, but I'm a little girl, but not anymore. I'm in Gan Eden. I'm now in the world of truth. I see things for what they are. My perspective is deep, is emes, is mature. You can't imagine the lichtigkeit, the light that you're bringing to this world and all worlds above us. I want to start with a word from the Heilige Belzerov. We say Sheni v'Chamishi. We start with the Yirotzoin, with the Avinu Shabashamayim, another Yirotzoin, another Yirotzoin. And then really comes the greatest Yirotzoin. We say, Achenu kol beis Yisrael, anasunim batzoru v'ashiviyam, d'mebayom bein bayabosho, hamokoim yirachem aleim, v'yoytziim. But the Heilige Belzerov asked, why don't we say Yehirotzoin? Why don't we say one more Yehirotzoin? Yehirotzoin b'lefnei Avinu Shabashamayim d'rachenu b'nei Yisrael hanasunim batzoro v'ashivyo amokim yirachem aleim. Where's the Yehirotzoin? Said the Heilige Belzerov, when it's achenu b'nei Yisrael, it is rotzoin. We don't need to ask and plead Yehirotzoin b'lefnei Avinu Shabashamayim. It is a eis rotzoin. Every gathering, when it's Achenu B'nai Yisrael, Alachas Kamo V'Kamo, when the purpose of the gathering, when the bracelets of the gathering, when the placeholders of the gathering, it's all about Achenu B'nai Yisrael. Every other word that's going to come out of our mouths tonight is Sim Shalom Toivo Uvrocho Chaim Chen Vo Chesed V'Rachamim. Give Shalom. Tein b'libeinu shenire kol echod malas chavereinu. Look at the big picture, as the Rav just said. Look past things. This gathering is not only Achenu B'nai Yisrael. The purpose of the gathering is to create a better Achenu B'nai Yisrael. Is to leave this hall tonight and see things differently. See things in the lens of Achenu B'nai Yisrael. We don't need to say Yehi Rotzoin. It's a Eis Rotzoin. Close your eyes and whisper a tefillah to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that we should all already be zoicha to Shalom, to Nachas, and not have to have gatherings in Simcha halls that represent everything other than Simcha. We should be zoicha to Bila Amoves Lo Netzach. We should be zoicha to Tchias HaMeisim, to Bias HaMashiach B'Meheira Amen. What I'm about to say is not to address this incident. This incident does not need to be addressed. This incident is living testimony to Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, Goina Musar, who said Musar can change and transform human beings to Malachi Elokim. Rabbi Yisrael said learning Musar, going through the yeshivas, Mesilas Yeshorim, Oches Tzadikim, listening to Shmuzin, listening to Ashkofa, to Machshova, to Musar, can transform human beings to Malachi Elokim. This incident does not need to be addressed. This Kehila does not need to be addressed. Yudi, his wife, Bini, and his wife, Sheyichyu l'chaim toivim aruchim v'shalom, they don't need this address. They have it. They personify it. They live it. And they're teaching it. Other incidents need to be addressed. Other Kehilos Kodesh need to be addressed. I imagine those in the room have no grudges, carry no machloikis, are not participants in any conflict. If they were, they surely got it behind them. It's been 30 plus days. Shalom for Charlotte. Just look at that sweet, beautiful face. How could you hold a grudge? But Klal Yisrael doesn't begin and end here. And when we scream in this room, we scream out from pain. When we talk divrei chizuk, it affects everyone all over. The goal is for machloikis, for grudges, for hate, for resentment to become outdated, for it to lose its chayin, for families to be ashamed of themselves that they're seeped in conflict and machloikis for so long, for people to forgive and forget quicker. That's what we're here to address. Bini so beautifully read a line in a letter that I penned just to these two beautiful families. But that line needs biur. That line needs commentary. It needs explanation. What does that line mean? To understand how to not have machloikis. To understand how to not keep grudges. We need to learn a sugya amuka. Yes, we can be inspired. We can be excited. But for this to last, for this to be understood, we need to really understand this difficult, complicated sugya of machloikis, of grudges, of resentment, of anger. And I want to start with a posuk in the Torah. The posuk says, Kisivne bayis chodosh, v'osiso makel ligagecho. If you build a new house, put up a fence on the rooftop. Says the posuk, "V'loisosim domim beveisecho, ki yipol hanoifel mimenu." Don't carry blood on your hands. Don't bring blood into your house. Ki yipol hanoifel mimenu. The faller will fall. Ask Chazal HaKadoshim in the Gemara, what does it mean, ki yipol hanoifel mimenu? The faller will fall. Ki yipol ha'odo mimenu. A person will fall. Ki yipol mimenu. What does it mean, yipol hanoifel? Say Chazal HaKadoshim, Ro'u zel lipol misheshes yemei bereishis. It is not ki yipol ha'odo mimenu. Man will not fall from your rooftop. Ro'u zel lipol misheshes yemei bereishis. The one who falls was destined to fall, was meant to fall from sheshes yemei bereishis. Ki yipol ha'noifel mimenu. The noifel will fall. What does this mean? What are Chazal HaKadoshim telling us? Chazal HaKadoshim are telling us, anyone that falls, anyone that gets hurt, anyone that gets robbed, anyone that gets anything, it's all from above, from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ein odom noikif etzboroi milamato ad shemachrizin olov milamailo. You don't bang your finger. You don't stub your toe milamato. Acha machrizin, not acha oimrim, not acha meramzim, acha machrizin. A hachroza, a screaming announcement. This was meant to happen. And only then does it happen. Anything and everything that happens to you happens from Hashem directly to you. Now Rabbi say, there's an obvious question, a question that every thinking human being should be thinking about right now. But what's with the side of Bechira? What's with the secret of Bechira? Hashem gave us the space to make our own choices. We are responsible for our choices. We get reward for making good choices. We get punished for making the wrong choices. We have Bechira. So if everything that happens to us, also on the receiving end, happens min hashamayim, how do we reconcile this with the bechira that the person has? Now here in this room we have a simple case. This case is simple and we're not addressing this parsha. The pasuk says, V'asher lo yitzodo, v'elokim ino liyodoi. Says the Netziv in the Chumash. These are two levels. Asher lo yitzodo v'elikim ino liyodoi. These are two levels of shoygig, of unintentional, of accidental, of not meaning to do anything. The first one is Asher lo yitzodo, I didn't mean to do it. The second one is even more powerful. V'elikim ino liyodoi. Hashem did it. Hashem did it through you, by you. But you have no shaykhis to it. In this case, it's simple. Hashem did it. There's nothing to reconcile. There's no other player. It's Boirei Kol Eilomim, as Rashi explains, the famous Cheshbon. It had to happen. They both had to have this specific tikkun. V'asher lo yitzodo, v'elikim ino liyodo. But what happens, Taira Yiddish Kinder, when it's not a shoygig? When the ganav is amazed, when the mazik is amazed, when the one who insults you or hurt your feelings is amazed, when he did it on purpose, she did it on purpose, they have bechira. You don't understand, he knew what he was doing to me and he did it anyways. She smiled to my face and destroyed me behind my back. I begged him, I told him how much it hurts, and he did it again the next day. They backstabbed me. They did it purposely. She promised me. I have to deal with this trauma every day of my life, every night. I can't sleep because of what they did to me. The pain is real, Rabbi say. The hurt is legit. It's real hurt. And these are not small things. These are wounds that take lifetimes to heal. It's amazing. It was done purposely, sometimes viciously. How do we reconcile? It's min hashemayim, but Hashem gives people bechira, and Hashem doesn't get involved in their bechira. And they chose to do this to me. I'm angry. I'm not going to talk to them ever again. They don't deserve me talking to them. It's best for me to just delete them. They're not related to me. I crossed them off my biological list. It never happened. I don't know them. I'm disassociating. I'm disconnecting. I'm distancing. They did it on purpose. It's not Vashe Loitzoda Velikim Ina Leyoda. There is a Kabbalah from the Vilna Goyen. Reb Chaim Volozhin says, I knew this without my Rebbe, the Vilna Goyen. But I heard it from him. Shezet To'us ma shemurgal b'fi ha'oilon shebal b'chire yochel lasos la'odom bilti gzeiris ha'boira. It's a mistake, a common mistake, that a Baal Bechira could do something to a person without the gzeira of the boira. Rather, says Reb Chaim Volozhin, shebechol dovor nigzar ala odom be'eze even yinogef. In general decrees, everything is decreed upon a person, even on which stone he will stub his toe. The only difference is by a Baal Bechira, it's not decreed which Baal Bechira will do it to you, whether for the good or the bad. But it was decreed min hashemayim that this will happen to you. Said Reb Chaim Volozhin. And be'emes it's mefurish. The Gemara says in Masechta Tainis, when Turionis wanted to kill Lulionus and Papus, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam she'akol niyo b'tzura. When Turionis wanted to kill Lulionus and Papus from the Haruge Lut, listen to what they said to him. They said to him, I'll translate to English. They said to him, we were already sentenced to destruction by Hashem. And if you don't carry this out, Hashem has many messengers. The only reason HaKadosh Baruch Hu placed us in your hands is so that Hashem could punish you for choosing to be the shaliach, to do what has to happen to us. If you don't do it, someone else will do it. Hashem is putting us in your hands to test you, so that if you choose to do the gzeira, you choose to kill us, Hashem will punish you. Say Sifrei Machshava, they said the emes. They said what's meant to happen to me will happen. It's inevitable. What's with the other person's bechira? He has bechira. And if he chooses to do what he's doing to you, if she chooses to do what she's doing to you, she will have to take it up, he will have to take it up with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But that's not your department. Your department is to look up at HaKadosh Baruch Hu and say, Hashem, no one can do anything to me by mistake, on purpose, without you, Hashem, directly allowing it to happen. This is a very tough truth, a very tough emes, but to be a yid is to live a tough truth. Shema Yisrael Havaya Elokeinu Havaya Echad. To be a yid is to live paradox, is to be able to live a contradiction. She has bechira, and Hashem will take it up with them. No bad deed goes unpunished. No good deed goes unrewarded. But you, on the receiving end, you look up to Hashem and say, it's nicht mein Geschäft, that's not my department, who did it? They told Turionis, you have the ability to bring a hand against us because it was decreed upon us. Now it's your choice to be the shaliach. It's your choice to decide whether or not you want to do this shlichus. We have to make a split. We have to live two sides of a coin, continuously, b'chol yoim tomit. When it's intentional, it's on purpose, it's deliberate, it was meant, it was by choice, it was calculated, then we need to live two sides of a coin, two sides of a hand. On the one hand, me, I, us, the recipient of pain, of hurt or of loss. There's no ganav, there's no mazik, there's no neighbor, no partner, no her, no him, and no them. Ein oid milvadoi efes ulosoi. Yesh boire oilom sheboire umanig umashgiach bashgoche protis al kotzad v'shal. Ein odom noikev etz boye milamata shemachrizin olav milamaila. There's no one other than Hashem. And if you want, blame Hashem. Pour your anger out towards Hashem. He could deal with it. He's been around long enough. Could we blame Hashem? Do we know Cheshbonis Shemayim? No. But that's the only metzius in your equation, is you and the Borei Kol Olam. On the other hand, this doesn't contradict, not a drop, the fact that the person who inflicted the pain upon you, if intentional, if calculated, if deliberate, they have to take responsibility. He chose, she chose, they chose to hurt. That cheshbon is Hashem's cheshbon with them, not my cheshbon. And we don't give over cheshbonos to Shemayim if we're looking to have a good life. As the Gemara says clearly, Kol hamoiser din la Shemayim. If you master tonight's understanding, but now you have a new mahalach, you pass things over to Hashem, sagt die Gemara, Chalila v'chas nenash tchila. Just get away. Deal with Hashem and yourself. Look inwards, not outwards. And allow Hashem to run His world and to do the cheshbon Shemayim as He sees right. We don't say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you take care of him, you take care of them. We don't enter that zone bichlal. We stay out. Hashem keeps the cheshbon. My job is emunah b'Hashem, to strengthen my emunah, to clarify my emunah, to live my emunah b'Hashem. Our job is to look up, and Hashem's job is to look down. And this is the answer to one of the most difficult parshiyos in Nevi'im. David HaMelech was no stranger to pain, to loss. David and pain is synonymous. David's life was a life full of tzar. Every kapitel in Tehillim is an expression of closeness to Hashem, mitoch tzar, mitoch dveikus. Finding light in darkness, finding simcha in evil. And one of the worst times in Adonai David HaMelech Olav HaSholom's life was the time that his own son Avshalom was chasing him. And to pour salt on an open, bleeding wound, Shimi ben Geira comes and curses Adonai David Melech Yisrael. He curses him, and he knew exactly what to say to get under his skin, Kaviyach. Says Avishai ben Tzruya to David HaMelech, Lomo yikalel hakelev hameis hazeh. Why would you allow this dead dog to curse you? Give me permission. I'll remove his head. Avishai ben Tzruya didn't need anything other than the permission. It was easy for him to get rid of Shimi ben Geir. Moya v'Rabbi say, tonight listen. Tonight hear. For Charlotte, for Yudi, for Chomi, listen what David HaMelech says to Yoav ben Tzruya. He says to Avishai ben Tzruya, Ma li v'lochem b'nei Tzruya. Ko yikalel, let him curse. Ki Hashem omar loi, kalel as David. Such holy words. Kodesh Kadoshim. He didn't say, listen, the man is not well, he's emotionally unstable. He didn't say, I'm David Melech Yisrael, I'm fine, I could deal with it. He didn't say Hashem told him to curse. He said Hashem told him to curse David HaMelech. Because if Hashem didn't tell him to curse David HaMelech, he would not be cursing David HaMelech. But he's angry, he's fuming, he's intentionally cursing me. Hashem Omar Loi Kalel Es David. And now the following words, Kodesh Kodoshim, Umi Yoimar, and who is to say, Madua Asiso Kei. Who is to say, why'd you do this? What does it mean, who is to say, why'd you do this? David HaMelech, could you come to Monsey? Could you come to Brooklyn? Could you come to Lakewood? Could you come to Kiryas Yoel? Could you come to Could you come, David HaMelech? What does this mean? Umi yoimar madua asiso kein? Umi eino yoimar madua asiso. Who doesn't say, why'd you do this? Why'd you hurt me? Why are you going under my skin? Why are you getting in the way of my life? Why are you stealing? Why are you hurting? David HaMelech says, Umi yoimar madua asiso kein. If it happened from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who's going to say, why'd you do it? So David HaMelech to Avishai. He says, I have Avshalom, it's Hashem. I have Ben HaYamini Shemi Ben Geira, it's Hashem. Hanichu loi v'yekalel. Allow him to curse. Allow him to curse? Get him at least to keep quiet. Threaten him. David HaMelech, Chazak. He can't utter one sound to me, an insulting, a hurtful sound. He can't take one penny out of my bank account. He can't cause any tzar to my nefesh if Hashem does not allow him to. If Hashem does not want him to. Everything that we receive is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Not only big patch, little patch, tiny patch. Just little aches and pains. It's all the Borei Kol Olamim. And Hashem feels our pains, is aware of our pains. And imagine one of the Rabbi say Hashem feels all of our pains and all the pains of Am Yisrael at once. Umi yoimar madua asiso kein. Who's to say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, why did you do it? Hashem is b'chol tzarosam lo yitzor, and he doesn't feel the tragedy like after the Shloshim. He feels it like the first day. And all tragedies, and all sadness, and all yearning, and all longing. But it's Hashem. Umi yoimar to Hashem adu asiso kein. Hanichu lo v'yekalel. Because he can't utter a sound that's not destined to land on my lap, says David HaMelech. But here comes the pachad of the kasha, shverkeit. David HaMelech is on his deathbed, and he says to Shlomo HaMelech, don't let Shemi Ben Geir get away with this. V'horadeto es seivosoi b'dom sha'ol. This is a tzorach ian that screams Shamayim. At the moment Shemi curses him, Avishai wanted to do the Midas Adin of Moed B'Malchus. David HaMelech says, Hashem told him to curse. His curse is a Gzeirim and Hashemayim with an address, not a P.O. box, a residential address. And who could say, why did you do so? So why before the P'tira? David HaMelech demands his covet and commands Shlomo HaMelech, Al Tenakeyu. Rabbi said the answer is powerful but deep. On a simple level, there's no way to stand here and talk. It's best to stay home and be Mekayim Vayidun. Only depth, real depth, Yiddish Atifkeit could help us walk on, can help us move on, can get Charlotte to soar and bring Mashiach now. Only Tifkeit. What's the answer to this question? The answer is, David HaMelech was in a very different position. David HaMelech had two positions at once. Listen carefully. On the one hand, he's the victim, the recipient of the curses, of the hurt, of the insult, at a very vulnerable, fragile moment. He was humiliated in front of the entire Klal Yisrael. And as the victim, he only has Hashem to look towards. Only Hashem. Ein odom loikevetz boy milamato, not your father, not your mother, not your sisters, your brothers, your sister-in-law, your sister's husband. Nobody can do anything to you unless Hashem wants it to happen to you. You're up against Hashem, or you have Hashem have your back. However you want to see it, but that's the only relationship we have. And David HaMelech felt it. He said, Hashem Omer Lo Yikaleh. But on the other hand, it so happens that David HaMelech is the Shaliach. He is Hashem's Shaliach in this world to execute Midas Hadin. Zamorid B'malchus is Chayev Misa. So David HaMelech is stuck between being himself a recipient of pain, of loss, of hurt, of trauma, of mess. But at the same time, David HaMelech represents Hashem in bringing people to their schar v'oinish, in making Seder in the Bria. Now what I'm about to say, only Eden like Rav Dester is a Chetzadik Levrocha, Reb Chaim Friedlander, Zecher Tzadik Levrocha, they had the capacity and the depths of heart to say the following. They said David HaMelech chose. David HaMelech made a choice. He chose to spend his entire life feeling no grudge, no hatred, no revenge towards Shimi. Years and years, nothing. Because Hashem Omar Lo Yikaleh. Only before his death, only when David HaMelech knew that he's totally clean, totally pure of any feelings of revenge or hate, only then did he execute what he had to execute. Not as the insulted victim, Moira V'Rabosai. No, not as the insulted victim. I'm a victim only of Hashem, and therefore I'm not a victim. He didn't execute us as a victim, but purely as the Shliach of Hashem. David HaMelech, says Rav Dessler, chose to live his life feeling Hashem Omar Lo Yikaleh. But you're a Shliach. You're meant to execute. You're Melech Yisrael. David HaMelech says, I'll do that. My last breath. When I have no hate, no revenge, I have nothing to gain anymore, I have nothing to prove, then I'll do my shlichus. As long as there was a possibility of even a minor personal negiyah, David HaMelech said, Hashem Omar Lo Yikaleh. I'm not angry with him. I don't feel resentment towards him. I'm not carrying a grudge. I'm fine. It's between Hashem and me, and that we work out during davening, during learning Musa, during singing, in quiet moments, in louder moments. We work it out with Hashem. It's an ongoing relationship. Nothing to do with Shimi. This is a madrega. The victim in David HaMelech saw only Hashem. The Melech in David HaMelech carried out Hashem's din with not one drop of himself involved, not one drop of himself participating in the ultimate din that had to come on Shimi ben Geira. This extreme, two sides of a coin. This bipolar truth, this emes, pure emes ve'emunah. This goes so far that Rav Shach Zecher Tzadik Levrocha the Rushiva in Ponevezh quoted the Choyves Halvoves in Shara B'tochen, and he said, so then why are we so makir toivo when somebody gives us good? You get it, Rabbi Isai? If what's coming to me is directly from Hashem, And if I only have a relationship with Hashem, and everything else is just shluchim, why are we so makir toivu? And I'll leave the question hanging. There's not enough time to address this. But just rest assured that Rav Shach had a powerful answer to this question. And it's probably not the answer that we would expect. It's the answer that works with the emes. And the emes is that anything that comes to us is directly from Hashem. And we don't harbor feelings against shluchim. This truth, this emes, is the emes that my dearest new friend Yudi and his Eishes Chayil Chumi taught us. They taught us this emes. They may not have had all these sophisticated words of machshava as a commentary to their behavior, to their angelic behavior. Rishonim kimalochim mamesh. People talk about this. People scream it. Tzaddikim have written it. But to live it in the midst of the deepest tsar, not a day later, the day of, the night of, when the world was still recovering, when family and friends were reeling in pain of sadness, of could this be true? These two heilige couples were embracing. These two couples were there for each other, with each other, personifying Hashem Omar Loi. What's the shaykhus? Just have to get done with the shiva and we go back to learn. Our chavrusa is strong, our friendship even stronger. Hashem is testing us. He's testing the kehillah, He's testing us. That's levels of tzaddikim and tzidkonios. It's easy to get up on a mic and scream and be compassionate and even convincing. It's a whole different story to live it, to feel it, to teach it, and to ask for it. And Hashem, in His divine, Ein Soiftige understanding of this world and all the tikkunim we still need, Hashem knew that the partners to live this emes, the partners in this emes, is Yedid Nafshi Rabbini und es Eishes Chayil Chayil. Hashem knew exactly what He wanted. And we could say tonight, Peh Echad, Hashem got what He wanted. Hashem, you're happy. We were oimed in the nisoyim, but not with regular colors, with green and pink, with smiles and freckles. We were oimed in this nisoyim, with chen and chesed, with ahava, achvo, shalom and reis. And we, us in the room, myself included, and anyone that will have the schus to sign up for this awesome initiative, we have to take this a step further. It's a huge chizuk in emunah. Anachnu maminim b'nei maminim. The generation is steiging in Torah like never before. Like never before. There are more sforim produced in our generation than the printing presses and the Sforim stores can keep up with. Ashreichem Talmidei Chachomim. The Tznius, Shmiras HaLoshen, and the gewaltige Gemilas Chesed that the Rav Shlita mentioned before, the Gmachim, the Chesed, Chaverim of Union, of Lakewood, of Monsey, Emes. But my dearest friends, Emunah, plain Emunah. What are you fighting over? Who did anything to you? Who took anything from you? Who caused anything to you? Just HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'atzmoi. Are we koifrim chalila? Would you go out and say that Hashem was mafkir His world to this person who wronged you? So Hashem was taking a nap. Are we chalila koifrim? Are we Bilam that waits for a moment where Hashem checks out? We are maminim. Ein odom noikif etzboi. Hine lo yonum velo yishon shomer Yisrael. And if it's happening to you, it's meant to happen. But she did it, he did it. That's not your business. You look inwards, you look upwards, and allow Hashem to look downwards and do what He feels right. Keeping grudges, hating, disconnecting, disassociating, and Khalila, sometimes even guidance to disconnect, to hate, to harbor grudges. It feels good. It feels empowering. A grudge feels like justice. I'm not angry, I'm right. Resentment feels like strength. I'll never let them do that to me again. It feels like control. As if holding on to the anger, I'm holding them accountable. And if I let go of the anger, they're not accountable. I'm making them pay. Or as someone said to me, without realizing it, will make it to a shir, to a drosha. Someone said to me, I'm being loyal to my pain. You read Rabbi say? I'm being loyal to my pain. Pain, I am loyal servant to you. I will not let go. Revenge feels sweet. And there is even a pleasure in being a victim. Retelling the story and hear people say, wow, you're 100% right. I can't even believe how good you are about it. It feels good. But moreover, Rabbi say it's not the truth. A lot of things feel good. A lot of things are pleasurable, but it's not the emes. And it's very damaging. Because a grudge doesn't hold them, him or her accountable. It holds me prisoner. It doesn't hold anyone accountable. It holds you prisoner. They're sleeping so beautifully all night. I'm a chaya. And I'm lying awake, holding a grudge. The Welt says it's like drinking poison and wondering why the other fellow is not dying. Aggravation, frustration, anger, hate. All it's doing is eating at you. It's not doing anything to rectify. It's not doing anything to communicate, to explain, to change. Lo yisikom v'lo yisitor, says the Heilige Chinuch. Don't take revenge. Says the Chinuch, because a grudge, revenge is a lie. Not because it's unhealthy, not because it's not going to work, because it's a lie, says the Chinuch. Because if you have feelings, they should be towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If someone did something to us, listen carefully, and we keep grudges, and we harbor hate, it feels good, because then they're evil, and I'm okay. But if Hashem brought it upon me, that doesn't feel so good. Then I have work to do. then I need to be introspective. I need to look inward and ask Ribono Shel Olam, what is it that you want, if anything? The real reason blaming is so sweet, because then we're good to go. Because then the people around us are the Rishoyim, the Poishim, or just bad people. Get away from bad people. But I'm fine. But the emes is that Hashem had this in store for you. You may be fine. It may just be a tikkun, it may be a chizuk, it may be a nisoyim, but you have to look inwards. And that takes more work. It takes more courage. It takes a brave person to say, I'm not going to blame anyone. I have myself to blame or not to blame, but I'll deal with it. I want to share a story. One of the most powerful stories I heard from a Rosh Yeshiva, Reb Nosson Tzvi Zecher Tzadik v'Kodesh Levrocha. And when the Rosh Yeshiva said stories that involved Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, those stories were said with extra compassion, with extra feeling. I can't repeat it exactly the way the Rosh Yeshiva said it, but I'll repeat it the way I wrote it at the time. The Beis Yisrael neighborhood in Yerushalayim, in the heat of the 6-day war, was pounded without rachmanis. Shutters were sealed, stores were locked, and the silence of the streets were broken only by the shrieking shells flying straight from the Jordanian tanks across the border. In a small, damp shelter beneath the building of the Mir Yeshiva, the Bnei Yeshiva and the Rosh Yeshiva crowded together with the families of the neighborhood. The Bochrim trying to raise the Kol Torah, steiging. The shells and artillery were just drowning their voices. Word reached the shelter that the yeshiva building itself was hit. B'nisim, no one was hurt, but the knowledge that the yeshiva was a target made every heart in the shelter tremble. The spirit was low, the mood was shvach. And then it came, that night, when everything became so much worse. Without a second's pause, hundreds of shells were hurled at Beis Yisrael. And in the very center of Beis Yisrael sat the shelter. The terror inside broke all limits. The Bnei Yeshiva were crying, singing, trying to learn, saying Shema. The shelter shook from the force of the pounding shells. And everyone trembled with fear. The Bochrim started davening. The women didn't lift their eyes from their tehillim. Everyone made kabbalas, commitments. But one thing they all shared, Ona Hashem Rishiono, Ona Hashem Atzlichono, Chaskeinu v'amtzenu achapam azois, get us out of here alive. And then, towards morning, the shelling weakened. A few more nights they spent in the shelter, the war quieted. But that night of terror, of fear, was a trauma they all lived with. Sometime later, the Rosh Yeshiva Zecher Tzadik Levrocha shared with us. He said, the Rosh Yeshiva Reb Chaim Zecher Tzadik Levrocha stood before his Talmidim and he asked, do you remember that night of terror in the shelter? Do you remember the screams, the existential threat, the cries of Shema Yisrael, the death that hovered over us? The question needed no answer. Nobody forgot. They were living it. Reb Chaim asked, in whose zechus were we saved? How through all that did we come out alive? It became very, very silent. It became very, very silent. Nobody believed that Reb Chaim will answer this question. In whose zechus were we saved? Said Reb Chaim, in the shelter sat a woman whose job was to wash the laundry of the Talmidei HaYeshiva. She was a washerwoman, she was a koveset. She toiled bitterly for her bread. And while everyone was shrieking, says Reb Chaim, and shaking in fear, the woman cried out from the deepest place in her heart that she didn't even know still exists. And she said, Ribono Shel Olam, for more than 20 years I have been alone. Ever since my husband abandoned me and fled without leaving me a get, I've been alone. Alone with small children. Alone with no parnasa. I was left to struggle through a miserable, lonely, painful life, an easy target for anyone who wished to take advantage of me. A woman alone, with no support, no listening ear, no shoulder to lean on. I have collected in my lifetime thousands of tainas and complaints. It's not easy to be a koveset for yeshiva bocharim. Justified ones and less justified ones. I, Hashem, I have so much tainas against my husband who abandoned me for years, against my neighbors who never understood my heart, against people who harmed me knowingly, even out of plain cruelty. But at this moment, she says, when my life and the life of this entire shelter hang in the balance, I am moichel. I forgive every single person who ever sinned against me. And I erase every drop of anger from my heart. And in that schus, she says, Tate in Himmel, erase your anger from upon us and let us come out of the shelter alive. Said Rosh Yeshiva, Zecher Tzadik Levrocha, said Reb Chaim, that woman saved us. That woman's mechila, that woman's cleaning the grudges in her heart, all the pain, the veituk, that ki imcho haslicho, that saved us that night. Picture what happened, said Reb Chaim in Shemayim, at that very moment. They saw from above a broken woman who despite everything is moichel everyone belev sholem. They saw a woman take thousands of pains and wounds inflicted upon her by her people and be makriv them, sacrifice them for everyone's lives. Said Reb Chaim, there's no doubt that in her schus we were saved. In the schus of her brave, noble mechila, we came out of the shelter alive. We are here tonight. I have a hard time believing anyone here is harboring a grudge, hate, anger toward someone. And if they were, I'm sure by now they took out their phones and wrote that message. I am moichel. I'm working on being moichel. We are here tonight to give nechama, to give menucha, to promote shalom, and more than anything, to drop a grudge and keep this initiative going. Rabbi Yudi and Chumi are begging us. They're not going to say this, but they're saying we miss Charlotte. How could we not miss her? We're yearning. We're not angry. We're not upset. We have amunah. This is not even the nisoyon, but afal pikei. All chizuk aside, we missed that beautiful girl. A girl that I only know from the pictures, but these pictures speak volumes. This little Zisa picture. And this is just the beginning. And Tchias HaMeisim must happen soon. For our pain and for everyone's pain. But they're begging us. Allow us to turn this loss into a korban. It's a very big difference. A loss is something that happens to you. A korban is something you willingly do. They're saying, we have it. Allow us to sacrifice. Allow us to give this beautiful, beautiful korban for the sake of Shalom. I couldn't help myself early this morning but to think how many thousands of people are saying Kaddish for lost family members, for lost friends, for parents, for siblings. How many Kaddeshim are being said worldwide in the Yiddish Welt by all the minyanim? What's the siyum of Kaddish? How does Kaddish end? And it occurred to me that the siyum of all these Kaddeshim will be when we finally have Shalom. We could be Messiah all these Kaddeshim. If we could draw some Shalom from Charlotte's beautiful seat in Gan Eden. If we can draw Shalom mimeroimim, if we could inspire others, say, listen, I don't know what you're up to, but I'm going to stop validating your grudge. I'm not going to be such a polite friend anymore. I will urge, I will push, I will encourage and convince. Drop it. Drop it for your own sake, for Hashem's sake. And just because it's the truth, your grudge is a lie. Your grudge is living a lie. It feels good to live that lie, but it's living a lie. It's all emes. Sim shalom. Look what happens from shalom. Toivo, uvrocho, chayim, chein, v'chesed. Vorachmim oleinu val kol Yisrael amecho. Bocheinu avinu kulonu ke'echad ba'or ponecho. Ki ba'or ponecho nasato lonu Hashem Elokeinu. We say Toras Chaim, Ahavas Chesed, Stoko v'rocho v'rachmim. The Shvardim say Ki ba'or ponecho nasato lonu Hashem Elokeinu Torah v'chaim, Ahava v'chesed, Stoko v'rachmim, Brocho v'sholom. It's all in the Sim Shalom. Which one of the above do we not need? Which one of the above are we ready to say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'll do without it? Toivo, Brocho, Chayim, which one? The answer is none. We need all of them. We desperately need it. Am Yisrael's crying for all of them. Sim Shalom. Give us Shalom. Help us to make Shalom. Allow this Lechtig in Neshama and her wonderful, beautiful parents, and friends, and neighbors, and there's heilige Kehila of Rabbi Heshy and the Rebbe should be gesund und stark. Let's work towards complete Shalom. Let's give HaKadosh Baruch Hu the nachas that harmony amongst children brings to parents and grandparents. Let's drop a grudge now. Let's say the Hareini Moichel that was printed to take home. Let's say it right now. The minute we click our phones on and we're on the way out, the Yetzer Hara is back with us. And you know what he's going to say? He's going to say, but mine is the exception. What don't you understand? This is not what they were talking about. Mitagam Salomdis, Shimi Ben Geira, Turionos, Papus, Lulianos, it all doesn't apply to me. My machloikis is justified. It's l'shem shemayim, mamish ke machloikis b'shamayim b'silim. That's the Yetzer Hara waiting at the door. Before we get to the door, think strong, think deep. Who's getting a text tonight? Do it for Hashem's sake. Do it for Charlotte's sake. Do it for Yudi and Chumi. Do it for Binyamin. Do it for any reason. Just do it. Who's getting that text? I don't have a grudge against you anymore. The rest will speak. But for now, I'm clean. You won't have to take melatonin tonight. You will not have to take Max Relax tonight. You're just going to all of a sudden feel comfortable. You'll feel a nechama, or menucha. You'll feel lighter. Think this is an awesome idea. This is not like for Krishma, it's a placeholder. To put it in our Sforim, in our cookbooks, or just to put it everywhere, so that we have a constant reminder. Hareini moichel. Moira v'Rabbi, I don't want to be about tefillah. You ready? You're not ready? I'll go on for one more hour. Yodi Doilam is ready. Ask them.
Ready? Ready.
Gegangen. Ribono Shalom. Ribono Shalom Hareini moichel. L'chol mi shehichis v'hiknit oisi oishechoto kenegdi. Bein begufi, bein bemomoini, bein bechvoidi, bein bechol asherli, bein beoines, bein berotzoin, bein beshoigig, and even bein bemezid, bein bedibur, bein bemaisa, bein begilgul zeh, bein begilgul acher, l'chol bar Yisrael, v'lo yei onesh shum odom besibosi. Hashem should help. We should be zoicha. Like the Rav said, the Tisha B'Av should be nesapach lemoyed. We need this chizuk. We're learning, we're steiging, we're tzonua, we're into chesed. Am Yisrael is shining in a way it hasn't shown in years. Mika amcho Yisrael go'echod ba'oretz. We need a little more shalom. And Hashem will help. We'll do ours, and Hashem will give us or ponov, with the ultimate shalom, with the coming of Eliyahu Novi, who's the one that makes shalom. Ve'eshev leivavois al bonim, leivbonim al avoisam, bebias Mashiach tzidkeinu b'mheiro v'yomeinu amen v'amen.
I thank you everyone for coming. We're going to have Marav now, and on the way out, if everyone please, there's a Kriya Shema Lamita with Hareini Moichel inside. There's also bookmarks. Everyone take bracelets, please take for your friends, for your children. Enjoy.